And the first step we do in Photoshop is cleaning up. For cleaning up, I'm using only two tools mostly. I'm not using any plugins, any filters, any specific techniques. I keep it very simple. So how we start? At first, after we do everything, create new layer. I'm going to call this clean up. Let's zoom this a little into the middle and what we consider as an imperfections, because simply speaking, as a cleaning up, we just need to remove all of the imperfections. This is sometimes overused because one thing that is imperfection is pimples, some white spots, something that's supposed to not belong to the face of this model if she could have the best day ever. So probably she wouldn't have these spots, but of course she would have freckles because that's her nature, that's how she looks like. So you don't want to remove freckles or any other things, you just want to remove the things that would not exist on her face if she would have a really good day for her skin. So what would be this? As you can see, pimples over here, some white spots, maybe few of the hair over here because maybe she didn't have time for to take out the hair, so we could remove few of them, like this tiny shadow over here, this some little wrinkle. Most of the wrinkles, if there's more, you would like to keep them because you want to make this look natural. So let's start. First tool I'm using is healing brush tool. How does it work? Let me explain. We press Alt or Option next to the spot that we want to remove, and what is happening right now when we're doing this, we are copying the texture. We're not copying the color, only the texture. Then we cover the spot that we want to remove. It doesn't work now, sometimes it's lagging, but we pretty much covered. So we cover the spot and the color is adjusted from the area around. So only texture is copied, but color is adjusted. Let's try here. So you can see, doing this, and I'm copying texture from this area, color is adjusted from the area around. And the same over here. And over here. So like this is quite time-taking process. I understand what it wasn't cover. I had blending mode as a darken. So okay, now it should work better. Once again, copying the texture next to the spot and covering the spot, and the color is adjusted. Also, quite often I'm using spot healing brush, which work very similar. It's more intuitive. When I have very small spots, it will be okay. It doesn't work for a little bit more complicated spots, but for the simple ones like this one, small ones, it will work just perfect. What it's happened, it adjusts the texture from the area around and color. So it's more intuitive, but it's not so precise. That's why I prefer to use just healing brush tool. The other tool I'm using is clone stamp, but let me explain how clone stamp works. I'm going to make this brush hard. So what is happening? Let me press Alt or Option once again, and I'm copying the texture and the color. So the healing brush copy only texture, the clone stamp copy texture and color. And when we adjust to other area, as you can see, sometimes it looks unnatural. That's why for the spots, we prefer to use healing brush tool. But it doesn't mean I'm not using clone stamp, because I'm using this and quite much. But I'm using this a little bit different way, the way that many people would say it's wrong, but it's not really. I'm using soft edged brush, and when I see the rough area, like with rough texture, I'm just copying and really softly painting over just to soften the rough skin. See? And if you do this gently enough, the effect will be just amazing. So we're not losing the texture, we're not blurring out the texture, we're just trying to even out some areas a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. As you can see over here, this clone stamp will work just perfect. Just smoothing this out. So I'm blending these two tools to get the perfect result. And let me do this quick. And I'm going to zoom this over here because we have this not very pleasant area. And many people asking what we do with these small spots. Well, there is one way we can resolve this. For the dark spots inside the bright area, I would go with the blending mode Lighten, and I'm just going to clean the dark spots and they're just going to be brightened up. We cannot sort out the dark spots though, as you can see. So in this case, I'm changing into Darken, and the white spots on the darker skin color I'm solving this way. Pretty simple, I believe. It also can be done with clone stamp, quite soft, like just to make this transition over here quite soft and natural looking, not too harsh. I would use clone stamp. So these two tools I'm using for all of the skin. This wrinkle, you could use really two methods. Maybe it would be great to use Lighten because it's a little dark, and just paint over. We couldn't solve this fully, so let's try with normal. Works a little better. That's how I do. Simple methods, nothing complicated. Below over here we have some of these white spots, softly covering. So if you were taught that there is some fancy methods and some filters, forget about this, because if you use basic tools, everything can be cleaned much better, and with some other techniques that people showed you, you can only make your work more difficult, and you can overdo the skin. You can make this artificial look. You don't want this. You want to clean just as I do. So right now, give me a few minutes. I'm going to clean the skin. I'm going to speed up this video so you can see how I work. I'm going to make sure that the skin will be cleaned so we can process to the next lesson.